Welcome to the Nina Masterclass, where I teach you how to properly use this somewhat complex character, what she is good at, and finally, should you summon. You might realize this guy is more high effort than my other videos. Don't get the wrong idea though, it's not because I like Nina or anything. Gacha. First, we need to understand that Nina has two main playstyles that she can adapt depending on the situation. The first playstyle is the detonator playstyle, and the second one is the sniper playstyle. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to give each playstyle a nickname. The detonator style as the fetch playstyle or play fetch, the sniper style as the boomerang. The detonator playstyle is called fetch because what you do are essentially launching your parasol near an enemy you want to damage, preferably a big target, then collect your parasol on the same turn during your chain. There are two main benefits of doing this. First, you get the damage from the active skill, dealing 80% damage to tiles along the path. If you have Breakthrough Tree, she will also cast her equipment skill once at the landing point, dealing 200% damage to one surrounding cluster. Secondly, you can activate your equipment skill, granting you diagonal attack and 200% damage around the parasol. Keep in mind though, you do not have to collect the parasol at the end of the chain. Collecting the parasol at the start of the chain will still grant you diagonal attack for the remaining of the chain. If you collect your parasol, your active skill cooldown will be reduced by 1, which means you can use your active skill again next turn. This playstyle is surprisingly the strongest part about Nina. The damage you get from triggering the equipment skill and diagonal attack every turn makes her damage very consistent. While Nina doesn't have the highest burst damage, her damage floor is incredibly high. You can only move one tile and deal 800% damage to a 2x2 enemy every turn, which I think no other units can do that. This is provided if you have the Breakthrough Tree though. The only downside of fetch is during Aurora time, your cooldown will be still on 1, since your turn hasn't ended yet, hence losing the diagonal attack. I don't really think this is too big of a deal, since usually after Aurora time you don't have a lot of tiles to work with anyway. If you want to play fetch during Aurora time, you could. You simply have to toss out your parasol one turn before the burst, and this can be useful if you are using a comp such as Button plus Ruby. Next, we're gonna talk about the sniper mode, also known as the boomerang. This will be a mode you only use if you have to, because it's not the greatest. Mainly, you use the boomerang mode when there are a lot of enemies scattered around the board, and you will need the global sniper chain in order to damage all of them. Simply toss out your parasol at the edge of the map and enjoy your diagonal attack and sniper chain. Why the edge of the map? Well, it's less likely for enemy to step on your parasol, which grant a +1 cooldown penalty, and you will get a better coverage for the second part of your active skill, which I call the boomerang. Reclaim the parasol, dealing 640% damage to tile along the path. You might be wondering, wait, wasn't it 1000% before? Well yeah, it's locked behind maximum breakthrough. I know it sucks, but there's nothing we can do about it. Without the maximum breakthrough, we are essentially doing significantly lower amount of damage, which is why I consider the boomerang playstyle to be the weaker part of her kit. However, if you would like to maximize the damage she can do, it's still a good idea to know how it works. With that, I present to you the Parasol Placement Guide. I developed an easy way to quickly tell where you should be standing on to get the maximum amount of damage from the boomerang. I call this the reverse L method. Simply visualize a reverse L starting from the parasol location. If the lines are able to touch 3 of the enemy tiles, congratulations, you can achieve the maximum damage. Simply teleport or move to the end of the reverse L and reclaim your parasol. This method will also work for a 3x3 enemy, which is why I like it. Of course, this is not the only way to achieve the sweet spot, especially for a 3x3 enemy, but I would like to keep this guide simple, okay? If you think you cannot get into the optimal position in time, I honestly think it's fine to just reclaim your parasol without damaging anything. You can go back to your play fetch mode quicker, and you get to use your detonator chain right away, which is not a bad trade. Now that you know how to use her properly, it's time to learn where she excels at. She is good at stages that require both detonator chain and sniper chain. These are mainly mob stages where they include both big and small enemies, or bosses that split into smaller pieces after death, such as the Sublime Resource boss and Deathless. She's also pretty good for Eugene, which is a boss that is immune to all damage except normal attack because of her diagonal attack. Now on to the team composition. She has a really good synergy with Battle and Felicity, since Battle likes low cooldown units and Nina has the lowest cooldown in water when you focus on the Playfetch playstyle. Felicity is also great because her teleport allows more consistent boomerang damage, since you can always just reposition yourself. Plus, they all have fire as their off elements, which is pretty cool to see. As for the other units, I highly recommend converters, namely Button or Ruby, and Azure is pretty much auto-included in every single water team at this point, so slap Azure in. As for the last slot, I also recommend another converters because Nina does have diagonal attack, having more tiles to work with is better. So I would recommend using Bethlehem as well, especially when you have Breakthrough Tree. Lastly, should you summon? Well, I think Nina is an excellent unit, but I'll be lying to say she is necessary in the current water meta. Azure still remain being the strongest water unit, pretty much, like I said, auto-include in every single team, being the captain, with Rigo and Battle being the close second. Sadly, with how stacked water currently is, if your team consists of Azure and Rigo, most likely Nina is an easy skip, considering we are going to have the Persona 5 Royale banner coming up pretty soon. However, as a fellow Nina enjoyer, I would say if you look past the meta, she has a lot to offer. Great voice acting, fantastic HE art, animation of her skill are flashy, and most important of all, you are closer to her heart when you hug her. Okay, that's pretty much wrap up the guide for Nina. I recently cleared actually 100 stage of Spire, and I have to say Nina, she's not that great on hard content, namely because on like boss stages you most likely would rather use like Rigo for the burst damage, and well, most of the thing that Azure can do, Rigo just do it better in a way that Rigo can store the damage until the burst turn, but Nina has to rely on consistently doing the damage through her active skill. While I do think Nina can shine on certain stages such as mainly mob stages, and you can use her alongside with Battle and do a lot of consistent damage that way every single turn. But yeah, she does need that breakthrough tree for her to shine, and even then, a lot of the mob stages are not really particularly hard, so even if you just use another converters, I bet you would do fine. So sadly, with how stacked water currently is, I would recommend not summon unless you really like her. Let me know if I convince you to summon for this cute little Ojo-sama in the comments. Gently click the like button if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.